Defense of the Revolution are doing is calling our people in every neighborhood, every town, every street, people that has backyards, people that have little pieces of ground in their surroundings to cultivate them, to grow their own food. And we are doing a massive movement, calling the people, the neighbors in the communities, to cultivate their own products, to grow their own food. And as a part of that movement, myself and other leaders of the Committee of the Defense of the Revolution have been traveling all around the country, because I have to mention, I know you are aware of it, but I have to mention that the Committee for the Defense of the Revolution were founded by Fidel 60 years ago. Next September 28th, we are going to commemorate our 60th anniversary. And our organization is present in every town of Cuba, in every street of Cuba. We have a committee integrated by members, by neighbors, and we have an important role in every, for example, vaccination campaign for kids. We have organized the older neighbors that need help in every street. These days of the pandemic, we mobilize our people, our neighbors, quickly to check in every corner, in every street, who are the more needed people, who are the older people that cannot go by themselves to the street and buy food. So we take food to their houses. All people that live by themselves and not able to go to a pharmacy and get their drugs, their medicines. We take the medicine from the pharmacy and take it to these people, to their own houses, so they don't have to move from their houses. That's just some of the tasks, some of the work that have been doing the Committee for the Defense of the Revolution during this time of pandemic. And also we are calling, as I mentioned, for the neighbors to produce food, and there's a huge movement in every neighborhood of Cuba, of people getting together, places that used to be a place for the people to get rid of trash. Now they're getting clean, and they're getting cultivated, and people are growing their own food, and we are encouraging people to do that, because a little food that we can grow in the neighborhood is a little food that the state doesn't need to import, and those resources can be used for something else for our people. So that's in this environment. This is going to be, as I mentioned, a different celebration for July 26th, but there's going to be a celebration, and the best way to commemorate that important day in our history is to work hard and get united. This time of pandemics, and I'm thinking that only Havana is reporting now some cases. The rest of the country is basically clean. There has been a massive effort by our authorities, by the healthcare personnel, and by all the Cuban people fighting this pandemic. And as a result, we have been in the most, let's say, favorable situation than other countries, because right now we can say that basically the other provinces of Cuba are clean. Only Havana, we're still reporting a few cases, very little cases, but still we are taking and keeping all measures. I have to say that 26th of July is very close, and our people are in a very good spirit despite the harshness of the U.S. blockade. We are united even more. All this situation, the Cuban people has a characteristic that we get united under pressure. We get united. We respond. We get together, and our solidarity sentiment prevails every time there is a hard situation. And as a member of one of the Cuban Five, I cannot let this opportunity go without saying that we, the five, are incorporated in different places of our society, different worlds, doing our job, serving the revolution. In my case, as I mentioned earlier, I'm national vice coordinator of the Committee for the Defense of the Revolution. And I would like to mention today that there's not one single day when we don't remember the comrades like you that help us to get out of prison. It's supposed to be with you there, and my comrade, my friend, I'm here today thanks to all the work that you all did in South Africa, and that's something I'm gonna appreciate for the rest of my life. Thank you very much. I wish you a lot of success in your activities, and remember, long life to the July 26th, long life to the people that work and change the history of Cuba for better.
Thank you very much indeed, Comrade Gerardo. I'm sorry that there was a sound problem for the last 3 minutes. We didn't have sound at all, but I think a very remarkable message from Comrade Gerardo that, as you could tell from the beginning, it was especially recorded for us, for the Friends of Cuba Society, and it was just recorded 3 or 4 days ago at a time where, in his responsibility for the CDR, he was really busy. And I was very struck by what he said about and giving us an insight on the committees for the defense of the revolution and the way they are, if you like, in the forefront of a caring, compassionate, and just society, and particularly for those who are the most vulnerable. And also, I was very struck by what he said about food security, the mobilization of everybody to be involved in food, producing food. So I think with no further ado, I'm going to invite Comrade Rebecca to speak to us. Comrade Rebecca, you are very welcome indeed.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Father Michael. Thank you, Fatima, and thank you all the comrades and friends of Cuba, particularly comrades from Focus in Cape Town, for organizing this important event. I was so happily surprised and happily to receive and to listen to the words from Comrade Gerardo Hernandez Nordelo, who is doing a very good job in Cuba right now, leading the CDR, which is a historical organization, and it's an historical and a popular organization in Cuba. And I'm so glad that he could make this message and to send it to us in this important day. Today we meet Cubans and friends to celebrate one of the most important events on the history in Cuba. In our country, 67 years ago, on July 26, 1953, a group of young revolutionaries led by Fidel Castro stormed the Moncada barracks in Santiago de Cuba, the second most important military fortress in the country at that time, subjected by the opprobrious dictatorship of Fulgencio Batista. A few hours before the assault, Fidel Castro told his companions gathered in the Siboney farm before the attacks, and he said, and I will quote, "Comrades, we will be able to win within a few hours or be defeated. But in any case, listen well, comrades, the movement will triumph anyway. If we win tomorrow, what Jose Marti aspired will materialize sooner. If it happens otherwise, the gesture will serve as an example to the people of Cuba to take the flag and move forward, is what Fidel said to the conference at this point. The combat was very unequal. Those 131 young people without any military expertise faced more than 1,000 heavily armed soldiers. The barracks would not be occupied. Fidel and several of his men were taken prisoners. After remaining several months in solitary confinement and under very harsh prison conditions, a legal process was initiated against him. A young lawyer 20 years old, Fidel Castro, decided to assume himself his own defense. His extraordinary plea, known as History Will Absolve Me, is undoubtedly one of the most exceptional political documents of the 20th century. In that text was the germ of all further development of the Cuban Revolution. Although that brave action did not achieve its military objective, it initiated a path that was never abandoned. 5 years, 5 months, and 5 days later, on January 1st, 1959, the Cuban Revolution would triumph. So this event marked the history of Cuba. We celebrate the Rebellion Day. It's the day that marks the change of the Cuban history forever. But dear comrades and friends, once again, an adversity.
Sound is gone. Sound is gone.
Rebecca, you muted. You have to unmute yourself, Rebecca, please.
The gremlins, the CIA.
It looks as if it's frozen as well.
Right. I think just while Comrade Rebecca is trying to come back, people can be thinking about questions they have or comments. Okay, I think Comrade Rebecca, you're still muted, Comrade Rebecca. There you are.
I'm fine right now. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for this interruption. Can you see me right now? Okay, I'm so sorry.
And we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I'm so sorry. So, dear comrades, I was telling you that once again, an adverse scenario has arisen in Latin America and in the world because the euphoria in our enemies resurfaces again in their attempts to destroy the example of Cuba. The current public pronouncement by the government of the United States regarding Cuba are characterized by aggressiveness, interventionism, and the manipulation of historical truth. The criminal and illegal blockade, commercial, economic, and financial blockades against Cuba intensifies. Attacks by the US administration on Cuba and its solidarity work globally during this COVID-19 epidemic have been intensified. The government of the United States have deployed, as from last year, an intensive and defamatory campaign against the medical cooperation offered by Cuba, which adds pressures exerted on recipient states to make them dispense with said cooperation. Last month, for example, on June 17th, a new maneuver was made. Three US Republican senators presented a new bill which aims is to punish countries which hire Cuban medical missions. On June 25th, more recently and even, the US Department Global Human Trafficking Report 2020 included Cuba again, because they said that we are not doing enough to combat this scourge, and because we have Cuban Medical Brigade deployed all around the world. It is an aberration try to criminalize Cuba's international medical cooperation. Calling human trafficking to a noble and necessary act is the US attempt to justify its new abuses blockade policies and to try to justify its appealing performance in handling the pandemic. The magnitude of the current crisis compels us to cooperate and practice solidarity despite political differences. The virus knows no boundaries or ideologies. It threatens the life of all, and therefore is up to all of us to fight against it. No country should assume it is big enough, rich enough, or powerful enough to defend itself, isolated itself, and ignoring the efforts and needs of others. But so far, 35 Cuban medical brigades of healthcare professionals has been deployed to join the national and local efforts to combat COVID-19 in 35 countries all around the world, in Latin America, Caribbean, Europe, Asia, and Africa. Team of doctors has been sent to Nicaragua, Venezuela, Suriname, Jamaica, Belize, among others in Latin America. In Africa, we have in Angola, in Togo, in Guinea-Bissau, in Guinea-Conakry, in Equatorial Guinea, in Sao Tome and Principe, in Sierra Leone, and in South Africa, of course, we have a brigade that arrived here on 25th of April, when 216 Cuban doctors and Cuban professionals try to help the locals, the South Africa doctors, to fight the pandemic. In Kuwait, Qatar, Turcos and Caicos, and Martinique, among others in the Caribbean, we have deployed medical brigades. On the other hand, in the midst of the pandemic, the Trump administration has tightened sanctions on Cuba, making it harder for Cuban people to get essential supplies, ranging from medicine and food to textile to making face masks. Cuban hospitals also have been struggling to acquire medical supplies as supply ships has been intercepted or blocked. Invoking the commercial and financial rates of the United States, for example, in May, the company IMT Medical AG and Alcotronic Medical System in Switzerland denied the order for ventilators that the Cuban company Medicuba had placed. In April, the Alibaba and Jack Ma Foundation in China, which has managed to reach more than 50 countries around the world, was unable to touch the Cuban soil because the North American firm hired to transport a batch of face masks and diagnostic kits to the deadly disease declined at the last minute its order because the argument was that the blockade regulation didn't allow it to do it. But despite all of this, Cuba had until today, I'm so sorry, 2,588 patients diagnosed with the disease. 169 remain admitted in the hospital, all with a stable clinical evolution. Unfortunately, we have 87 people who have died and 2,353 recovered patients, which represents the 91% of the diagnosed patients recovering right now in Cuba. In the country battle against COVID-19, we have we had the most important work was developed at the primary care level. The active monitoring in the communities has been a key strength in the detection and on infected patients, as well as the preventive measures that we took, such as the preventive medicine to the high-risk population, the daily disinfection of the street, among others. Those have been essential measures to contain the epidemic in the country right now. We also established a single protocol at the national level for the treatment of critical patients, allow for a decrease in mortality across the whole country in relation with another countries in the Americas and in the rest of the world. At the present, the mortality rate in Cuba is 3.36, which has been possible thanks to the learning that Cuban health system have acquired over those months, along with the incorporation of innovative therapies and products created in Cuba in our treatment plans. In all the provinces in Cuba right now, there are quarantine areas in which rapid and PCR tests are being administered even to the entire population at risk in Cuba, while at risk areas also resident movement has been restricted. We have been participating in 14 clinical trials proposed by the Minister of Health and BioCuba Pharma Enterprise in Cuba, among which the use of Everferon Alpha 2B and the CGB 258 in critical patients, and studies related to the psychological support stands out for their satisfactory results. No children or health workers in Cuba have died because of COVID-19 so far. Well, dear friend, this is a rough idea of what happened with the COVID-19 in Cuba. But the situation right now has been really difficult because of the blockade and the impact of the United States measures against Cuba. But the numbers and the reality speaks for themselves. It will not be the first time nor the last time that the Cuban Revolution will have to face challenges and threats. We have run all risks and resisted undefeated 67 years old that was marked on the 26th of July. There is a word, the word absolutely forbidden in revolutionary terminology, which is defeat. Our people are alert and ready to respond to each challenge with unity and fearlessness.
We've lost the sound again, Rebecca. Your sound is gone. There you are.
I'm so sorry. No. Dear comrades, July 26 is a day of celebration for revolutionaries, for those who defend the fairest causes all over the world. It is a day of celebration for those who fight for a better world. Our thanks to all of you for joining us today in the celebration of this special day. Thank you and all the friends of Cuba in South Africa for your permanent support and solidarity with Cuba. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Comrade Rebecca, for that remarkable speech. I love it when you said, and for revolutionary, the word defeat is not acceptable. Though I suppose the exception is that you, in a way, have been defeating the pandemic in Cuba. And there has been an extraordinary defeat. And of course, as South Africans, we will be forever grateful that we have members of the Henry Reeves Brigade here in Cuba, here in South Africa, here in the Western Cape, that we have Cuban internationalists side by side helping us to save lives. So thank you very much indeed. And I think also giving us that picture of how the blockade continues to be so inhumanly fortified by the Trump administration. Who would have thought that this little country in the Caribbean could be a threat because they help save lives? And I think it's encouraging that there are 35 brigades, I think you said, in different countries of the world at this time. And of course, there has been the call, which we in the Friends of Cuba support, that the Cuban medical internationalists should be the recipients of the Nobel Peace Prize. And we entirely, support that. And what's interesting to me is that the countries who are appreciating the role of Cuba don't necessarily share the same ideology, but because there is a commitment to a common humanity, a commitment to saving life. So thank you, Comrade Rebecca. I think Fatima's going to help us. Is Comrade Carolyn able to join us? You could just tell us, Fatima, or whether she's not been able to.
She has not been able to, Father, but I'm
Okay.
still talking to her. Yeah.
Okay, so I think at this point we are opening up the conversation, and people can either make a short comment or ask a question. We have 20 attendees, and the three of us with Fatima on the panel. So I think anybody is free to make a comment, to ask a question. I think Fatima is going to moderate that and help us see who's going to be the first person who would like to either share something or ask a question to be part of this extraordinary conversation, celebration of July the 26th. And of course, it was good to be reminded, Comrade Rebecca, that the attack on the Mankata barracks was in 1953, and it was to be another 6 years before there was the actual triumph of the revolution and the beginning of a new history for humanity and for the Cuban people. But it's always been this day which has inspired people across the world. I think also, thank you for referring to that extraordinary speech, History Will Absolve Me, one of the great speeches of our time. And I'm sure if you haven't read it, it'll be good to look it up. Ask Miss Google, History Will Absolve Me, by Comandante Fidel Castro. And thank you for making reference to that. Okay, Fatima, who was the first person who would like to, do you have the first a voice?
People raise their hands, then I can give them a speaking. Please raise your hands, and then we can allow you to speak. Ansaf, did you want to say something?
You want to speak on stuff, you just need to unmute yourself.
Okay, no, thank you, Father. Thank you, Fatih. No, Fatih, I didn't really at this moment in time want to say something, but I see you are putting me in the box. Good evening, Rebecca, and welcome, and thank you for that wonderful, inspirational, truthful, painful speech. I think it's very clear that, especially with the US blockade, what President Trump is doing is he's just using it as part of his neoliberal framework. I suppose it's part of the bigger picture, and part of the whole neoliberal capitalist picture, to kind of exclude Cuba, to not recognize the common humanity that Cuba's been able to extend through the footprint. Unfortunately with COVID, but with COVID and its crisis has come the good and the bad. And the good has been that Cuba has been able to extend that common humanity to the rest of the world. And so everything, I think, as you've said, is what the American policies are doing now is just strengthening that blockade, trying to exclude Cuba in every economic, with its medical, with its economic, with its education, you know. So I think is trying to use it as a stepping stone, but as Comandante Fidel Castro said, history will absolve, you know, him, and I think that ultimately the world is slowly but surely moving towards seeing the paradigms differently, and hopefully, you know, history will show that what he's doing is beyond negative, is falsifying information throughout the world to push his own agenda. And thank you to Cuba for showing us humanity, and thank you, as Father, you've indicated, the Henry Reeves Brigade in particular, for coming to work with us in South Africa, and in particular in the Western Cape, where conditions are not always easy, but in particular to work under very difficult circumstances to support us as South Africans for now. So thank you, Fatima.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ansaf. I think in the case of Trump, history will not absolve him. And hopefully neither will the people of the United States, who are suffering so much death and dying, where they have an example of the possibilities of a humane society next door to them. Okay, Fatima, the next person.
Anthony will say a few words from the South African Communist Party in the West.
Thank you. Comrade Anthony.
speak.
You need to unmute yourself, Comrade Anthony.
I have to unmute myself before I can say something. Fatima's putting me on the spot. I'm a participant in your conference. But let me say this. The Communist Party in the Western Cape, close to about 6,000-7,000 members, is a very appreciative of the work that the Cubans have been doing in South Africa and particularly around the world, and appreciating the contribution that the Cuban Revolution has made to the advancement of humanity on the planet, even though at this point in time it seems that humanity is retrogressing into a serious decaying. We still see snippets of brilliance and humanity coming out of societies that are not based on market principles, and therefore Cuba, in that sense, even within a region of a country that appears to be the most powerful in the world, are unable to achieve the kind of advancement in terms of looking after its own people in the way that the Cubans have been able to demonstrate in that region and obviously across the world. And for that reason, we would be forever indebted to the Cubans for their work that they have been doing internationally, as well in our country. And we appreciate that. I just hope that the emulation that Cuba has been projecting across the world, we can see that taking root within our own society. We are grappling with very serious difficulties, and those difficulties is in most cases self-inflicted onto our own society. Those that are still left, ensuring that we build a caring society based on the principle of camaraderie and common humanity, that we would be able to succeed in ensuring that we break through the kind of difficulties that we are currently experiencing. So for that reason, we still believe that the contributions that Cuba has been making, and those contributions are spurring us on here in our own country and ensuring that we arrive at the same kinds of levels of human development. And for that reason, thank you very much for your contributions that you are making. And a luta continua. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Anthony. Thank you. Just as a message here from Comrade Amina Frenzy in Johannesburg, you see on the chat, Revolutionary July 26 greetings and much gratitude to the Cuban people. Amina Frenzy in Johannesburg. Fatima?
Yes, if there's any hands of people that would like to talk, they must
I've
just
never known, Fatima, for focus comrades to be shy. This is a
But also, I see there's a few Cuban comrades on the chat. If they would like to talk and need interpretation, maybe that would be fine, is it not?
Yes, thank you. So people can speak in Spanish, and Comrade Rebecca could help translate from one heavenly language to another.
Okay.
Anything? So maybe you could just say that in Spanish, Comrade Rebecca, if any of the Cubans want to
Oh,
speak.
okay. Compañeros, si hay algún cubano en el chat que quiera decir algo y necesita traducción, lo puede decir en español y yo ayudaría en lo que pueda a hacerlo en inglés. Así que si algún cubano de los que están en el chat se anima, por favor que levante la mano para que Fátima pueda darles la palabra. I already did it in Spanish, so I hope that if anyone would like to participate, they will raise their hands, and Fatima will be able to allow them to enter in the chat.
Yeah, thank you. Or people would like to ask a question to Comrade Rebecca as well. I think one of the things, again, that was striking what Comrade Rebecca said was the role of primary health care and fighting the pandemic at a very, very basic level of individuals in the community, and how important that is. Okay, Comrade Fatima, the next person is?
Comrade Mtweto, who wants to talk.
Okay, Comrade Mtweto, thank you.
Comrade, thanks with the speakers. Since everybody knows actually that we are having a problem in the Western Cape because other provinces, they send students to Cuba to study medicine, but now in the Western Cape, they have not been given the opportunity to go and study there. There was the resistance, as far as I know, that those doctors were from Cuba. There was a little bit of resistance to bring the Cuban doctors to help us to fight this epidemic. But because of the national government interference, that's why we have them here. So I don't know whether, Rebecca, you can help. Is there maybe somewhere, somehow, engagement in terms of addressing this problem? Because there's no way that we can be a country on our own in Republic of South Africa. That is, Western Cape is having its own country. So that's why I want to find out, is there progress in terms of addressing that problem? Because it's I'm really concerned about that, because we must be treated equally. I thank you.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to respond to that, Comrade Rebecca?
Well, if you allow me to.
Yes, of course, go for it.
Okay. Thank you, Comrade Teto. Well, as far as the students sent it to Cuba, we every year reiterate our willingness to receive as much as a student as you would like to send to Cuba, and we have been in contact every year with the Minister of the Department of Health and the Minister of Health in Cuba, and they are committed to send every year students to Cuba. So as far as if those student belongs to any province in particular, actually is something that we really don't know with exactitude right now. But we are willingness to continue to give this opportunity to the South African students, and we are honored and we will be honored to do it so. And it's a commitment from the organization, all the political organizations, and also for the government of South Africa to continue with the Nelson Mandela Fidel Castro program, which is the program that can allow the South African student to study in Cuba. So regarding to the student is the information that we have, and the communication, the very good information and the very good communication that we have with the authorities in South Africa. And regarding to the doctors sent it to South Africa, let me tell you that it was really it was a request made by the government of South Africa to the government of Cuba to try to help the South African health professionals to fight the COVID-19. And we received a letter from the government one day, and 2 days later, the government of Cuba responded positively to the South Africa government. And because of that, we have here the Henry Reeve Medical Brigade, composed or integrated for 216 professionals. And since the beginning, the intention was to deploy the Cuban Medical Brigade all over the country. In the whole 9 provinces of the country, it was the decision taken by the government, and Cuba honored it 2 days after we received the request by the government of South Africa. So it was a very easy process, and it's the commitment that we have with South Africa and we cannot say no to a friend when they need it. So it's what we have been doing all those years, and it's what we did in the COVID-19 situation.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much, Rebecca.
Okay, we have two people who would like to. Colin put a message in the Q&A. So maybe I thought Colin would like to talk himself, and then Pat Warren would be the next person.
Thank you. So the first one is Colin. Thank you, Colin.
Good evening, comrades. I was hoping that I wouldn't be asked to speak, but
Sorry.
but mine is about mobilizing greater support to establish more links with Cuba. I think that we are not doing enough as a country and as a people to foster greater links with Cuba. I think there's a lot more that we can do in terms of supporting a number of programs from agriculture to other elements in the economy to build greater bridges. I know that Cuba has also made it easier for us to do business with Cuba in the establishment of the free economic zone in Cuba. And I think that it offers, there's so much more that we can do if we, and we need to put pressure on government and the people to establish greater links. I know Cuba is very far, but I think there's always a way that we can find to create these strengthen the links that we have. I mean, it is a great irony that Cuba can send brigades all over the world, and we are unable to send a packet of seeds or help with the agricultural needs of Cuba. That's my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colin. Thank you. Thank you. So a call for greater practical solidarity between the people of Cuba and the people of South Africa, not just in health, but in agriculture and many other ways. Do you want to comment, Comrade Rebecca?
Well, Father, thank you so much, Comrade Colin. Indeed, it's really good your point on that, because if you read the President Ramaphosa statement last year, he said that we need to enhance the economic relationship between Cuba and South Africa, because we have been strengthening the political relationship, but we need to reach the level of the political relationship at the economical level, at the economical point of view. So it's a really good point, and we are working hard on that. And even also the South Africa government, we receive 2 big donations from the government of South Africa to Cuba, help us in helping us to try to beat the pandemic. And on the economical side, we are trying right now to foster relationship with the commerce chambers in South Africa, with the Cuban commerce chambers also. And we are aware of that situation, of that the economical relationship is not at the same level of the political one, and is also recognized by the President Ramaphosa himself. So I think is one of the channel that we need to foster in the future. Thank you so much for your comments on that.
Thank you very much. I think Pat Horn, we invite you to speak next.
Thank you very much, and greetings to the panelists. Hola, compañera Rebecca. In addition to the appreciation which has been expressed by other participants, I would like to really just echo particularly the assistance that South Africa and countries around the world have been receiving from the medical brigades. I'm living in Durban in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and my job is to organize workers in the informal economy. And I want to express appreciation for something which may not be so well known about Cuba, but which I discovered in the work that I'm doing. And that is the way in which the Cuban government in 2010 passed a law formalizing what we call own account workers, trabajadores por cuenta propia. And that's an incredibly important and simple model for demarginalizing workers in the informal economy. In South Africa, as well as many countries in the world, we have street traders being chased off the streets by police, by municipal officials, and people being denied their livelihoods all the time, partly because the laws of most of our countries are not sufficiently mainstreaming the workers who don't have formal sector jobs into the economy. So I think that I had the opportunity to go to Cuba in 2017 and to speak to many of the own account workers who were running guest houses, who were having their own private taxis, etc., and to really find out from them whether the system works for them. And I was really impressed, also because it's a very simple system. It's lacking red tape. The registration is extremely simple. The taxes which the own account workers pay are affordable. And there's really no reason why we shouldn't be able to do that in South Africa. So given that the last speaker has also talked about economic issues, I would very much like to see our government following the example of the Cuban government in relation to own account workers, particularly because our unemployment rate is going to go up. It was 30% at the end of the first quarter. That was even before the lockdown hit us. It's going to be between 40 and 50% by the end of the second quarter. So many people are going to join that army of workers in the informal economy who have to create work for themselves because they're going to be out of formal work. And it's going to be incredibly important that that work is recognized and formalized through something similar to the law which was passed in September 2010 in Cuba. So I'm hoping that we can draw more attention to this, that with the undertakings from President Ramaphosa, that we can look at this particular sector and not only the big industrial sectors, because a large number of the workforce in South Africa finds itself within that sector, and it's going to be larger by the end of this lockdown. So thank you very much, and I really appreciate us being able to celebrate this day. Hasta la victoria siempre.
Thank you, Comrade Pat, for that significant contribution. I don't know, Rebecca, would you like to comment on that? Rebecca may have disappeared. The picture's showing something, and I wondered, as well as responding to Comrade what Pat has said, it'd be interesting to whether she could comment any further on what Comrade Gerardo said about the growing of food and encouraging everybody to be engaged in that, and because that's obviously going to be incredibly important for us as well. And when we're already facing great hunger and the issue of food security, and that the Cubans are using the CDR to mobilize people around food as well. So I wonder whether the comrade has now disappeared from my screen, Fatima. Comrade Rebecca, you're still here, but Comrade Rebecca's disappeared. So while she's coming back, but I hope, Pat, we can be in further contact with Friends of Cuba as well, and share that experience you had there and see the ways we could you can bring, I think, a very particular dimension that has not been there before in our solidarity work. So thank you for that, Pat. I hope you'll continue to be in contact. Fatima, we've lost...
We've lost Rebecca. I'm not quite sure where she's not registering at all.
Forces of darkness are at play.
Yeah, and also I get messages of people struggling to get in for reasons unknown at this point in time. So
we have another 15 minutes, and I wonder, Comrade Father, was there anybody else who had requested to speak?
no, there's no, but if there's any other comments that people would like to make, please.
And thanks, Comrade Pat, for responding positively. Thank you. I see your comment there. Thank you. We appreciate. Yeah. Because I think if there aren't other comments, we're going to get Comrade Fatima is going to sort of sum up. And she's looking shocked and amazed.
I'm looking shocked and amazed.
Never been a
No,
loss.
I thought maybe Comrade Chippy Marty, I will convince him to say a few words. He was the first secretary of the Friends of Cuba Society back in the, isn't it, when it was established. And we haven't heard from Comrade Chippy for in quite a while. Yeah. So,
okay, so we'd love to hear your voice, Comrade Sheppy, and maybe even Comrade Becky as well, the figures of the past who are back with us. Okay, yes. Comrade Sheppy. We're putting people on the spot tonight. Comrade Sheppy, can you unmute yourself? We want to hear that golden voice.
Where's Comrade Sheppy?
Comrade Sheppy, are you there? You're still muted.
Oh, and unfortunately, also unmute. I can't unmute him. So anyway, but if there's anybody else that would like to speak, they can please let us know. Just to say, I think from my side, thank you for the people that has made the time to come. Maybe 3 things that we want to follow up going forward. There's a raised hand. So shall I give the raised hand an opportunity before?
Yes, why don't you do that, Fatima? Yeah. And we'll wait for your 3 points.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Comrade Callan.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Well, I'm a Cuban South African citizen. So firstly, I'd also like to just, from my part, from my Cuban heritage, I'd like to say thank you to Cuba for sending the doctors. My mom's also a doctor, so I've got sort of the personal experience. But I'd just like to say thank you. And I think South Africa can learn a lot from the solidarity that Cuba is sending, because South Africa is one of the richest, I would say, countries in Africa. So I was thinking like maybe South Africa can take advantage of that and spread out its resources. But also now, since nuestra compañera Rebeca está aquí. Buenas tardes, compañera.
Buenas tardes, perdonen que hubo un apagón en la casa ahora mismo, hasta que no logramos poner la planta, no pudimos volver. I'm so sorry for the English speaker. I was in the middle of the load shedding, so I'm so sorry. Everything has happened.
I just like to say thank you as a Cuban South African, and I see more collaboration between our 2 countries, because Cuba and South Africa, like Fidel Castro said, when he first met with Nelson Mandela, South Africa is like his homeland, his home away from home. So I'd just like to say thank you very much.
Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for embodying being Cuban and South African. Thank you very much for your contribution. I don't know, Comrade Rebecca, whether you heard also what Pat Horn said as well from Durban. And I think I was going to ask you, as well as responding to what she said, whether you'd like to also comment about Cuba's the issue of food security and using the CDRs to mobilize people in the growing of food, whether you had any comments, because obviously that's a fundamental issue for people all over the planet, but not least for hungry people in South Africa. So if you'd like to comment on what Pat said, as well as that issue of food security and the mobilization of society to play a part in food security.
And then Comrade Brian Riedlinger is, who's also one of the first very active members of Friends of Cuba Society, back in the 1990s.
When we were still young and innocent.
Yes, when we were still young and innocent.
Rebecca, and then after you've responded, then Comrade Brian.
Okay, thank you. Well, I was listening, Comrade Pat from Durban, when I have this problem, but I would like to say that it was an important step from Cuba to pass this law to allow the small enterprise in Cuba. And it was the solution, and it was the alternative that we have in order to fight again one of the problems that we have, which is food security in Cuba. And it's one of the biggest problems in the world. And we need to resolve one of the economic and structural problem that we have in Cuba. So we open the market, let's say, for the small enterprises to do their job, to provide services, to provide comfort to the Cuban people. As Comrade Pat was saying, she was able to meet with people in the street, with people with business in the taxi sector, and also in the guest houses sector. That it was something that we didn't have in the past. And let me tell you something right now: the contribution of those small businesses in Cuba is tremendous in the economy in Cuba right now, and is also helping the state to share the burden and to providing services to the people. And we have a very good relationship with those people in the business sector in Cuba, who has been growing and growing so far during last let's say 3 years. And it's something that we are proud of, because we have been working with them. We are organizing among themselves the trade unions, and also to try to resolve the biggest problem that we have in Cuba. That coming to the job and the work that he's doing right now, Comrade Gerardo, in the CDRs, is really commendable, and is the only solution that we have is try to unite people, unite community, work together in trying to provide food to the people in Cuba. It's really difficult because the blockade imposed by the United States, of course, impact tremendously in that sector. For example, we are not able to have seeds and good seeds that we can plant it in Cuba. But anyway, we can do something at the community level. We can reproduce our plant, our traditional staple foods in our backyards and in our neighborhoods, and we can encourage people to do that as a way of survive, and also as a way of bring healthiness and bring community work in our communities. And it's really commendable the work that Comrade Gerardo is doing right now with the CDR. And he's a lovely person, and the people love him so much that he is able to bring togetherness and to bring all the communities around one project. That the project that we have right now in front of us is something that is vital for not only for the economy, but the survival of the Cuban Revolution and the Cuban people.
Thank you. I think Comrade Brian.
Good evening. Hola. Firstly, I want to say muchas gracias to the Cuban people for the solidarity that you access Cuba wherever we can.
Brian, we can't hear you.
Problems with your sound, Comrade Brian.
Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes,
you're-
there now. There you are.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
now we can.
We got the muchas gracias. We got lost after that.
Brian,
Technical problems.
Brian.
While we're waiting for Brian, did you persuade Comrade Sheppy to say a word?
No. Comrade Sheppy shall not be coerced.
He shall be invited in a revolutionary way.
Yeah. All right. Brian, can you hear? Brian
think he-
has disappeared, actually.
From the screen, he's got obviously serious technical problems.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so I think we're back to your 3 points, Comrade Fatima.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, sure. So I think, comrade, from what we have come, from the message that has been said and that you've already spoken to about, was the that has come from Gerardo's video, and the importance of the high level of how Cuban society is organized at this point in time. And believe me that I think South Africans are taking lessons from that, because in many of our communities now, people are going back to street committees to organize themselves so that we can feed the people in our communities, to cook and to create these gardens and so on. So I think in future, for future endeavors, Comrade Rebecca, it would be important for us, and it's because it's also a need that has been expressed, that we actually have this kind of conversation around food security and agriculture and whatever other names that is called, right? Food sovereignty. We would like to have future discussions around that with the Cuban embassy, with people in Cuba, and so on. I think the second thing is that some of the comrades raised that during this time with the Cuban, as you have explained, so, and as we are always aware of, that the Cuban solidarity is global. It is under attack, and how can we as people in solidarity with Cuba protect the doctors program globally? Something called that it is something, as the US has been trying to make it out, that it is slave labor, it is this, it is that, and so on, to detract from the importance of people doing things not for status, not for money, not for anything other than to serve humankind. And I think that we need to go on a very big offensive to protect the image and the value of the international's work that is being done around the brigades. And then we were not quite sure in our own meetings how we can add our voice to getting the Henry Reeves Brigade to be nominated as for the Nobel Prize, to ensure that they get it. So that's the second thing. How do we protect that? And I think the third and the last thing really is that I think, as the Pat mentioned and other people, that there are other areas in which we would like to engage with the Cuban, where we can learn from them, whether it's small business, whether it is how we deal with racism, the big thing around Black Lives Matters. The Cubans have taken it very seriously, and they've done it on an ongoing basis. They're still doing it, and they would still reflect on their practice and how to do that. And so there are lots that we can learn from one another and from each other in terms of that. Yeah, I think that is, and then of course it's always about what can we do at this point in time as the Friends of Cuba to support Cuba. What is the need, apart from the Cubans saying, oh, We enjoy your permanent support. What should our permanent support look like at this point in time? So yeah, those are the points just that I thought we would raise. We are trying our best to give support to the comrades, that is the doctors here, where they're staying and where they're working. It's difficult because of course, social distancing, but it's also difficult because they're working quite hard. You know, they are working long hours, they're working hard, but we're keeping the contact. But we know on Sunday they went to a Cuban restaurant and social distancing, they danced, they ate Cuban food, and I think they had fun. Some of them, those who were not on duty. Yeah, so those is all that I want to say, Father. But we want to also, in the same way, thank Rebecca for coming online with us.
Maybe in the closing words, Fatima, Comrade Rebecca, is there anything, a last word you want to say to us? We know Cuba's always thanked us for our solidarity, just as we always thank you for your solidarity. But are there areas from where you sit that you say, we would like to say to the solidarity movement, there's something further that we don't see you doing that perhaps you could do more? Would you like to make a last comment? We know you're going to say thank you. You always do. But not just, and we know that we have to take responsibility for taking our own initiatives for solidarity. But because we're together in a common struggle for humanity, we welcome the suggestions. And throughout the history of Friends of Cuba, we've responded and when there's been very particular needs of Cuba and the ways that we can. So are there any other particular things that you would like us to take into account and to take forward?
Okay, thank you. Fatima and Father, you always put me in that difficult position, which is telling you what we should do and no thank you enough. But no, just to be fair and honest with you, we are really thankful for what you're doing with Cuba and to Cuba. Because you have, for example, a website in the Focus website. The Focus website is a platform that we can use more. For example, posting this event, posting the message of Gerardo is one thing that we can do in order to help us to magnify the example of Cuba or what we're doing in Cuba, and also the flaws that we have in Cuba, because we can show also the problem that we have and the solution that we can find, and our friends can do that. Right now, Cuba is under enormous pressure and enormous campaigns against its solidarity workers all around the world, even mostly in the online platform or the social media. So the battle right now is in the social media actually. So we need to do more things in social media. We need to work hardly in try to spread the message of Cuba, and and then other people can listen the support that we have in Cuba. In Miami, we have a lot of people who support Cuba, but also we have a big enemies there. The Because the U.S. government and the USAID has put a lot of money try to buy people and try to create false accusations against Cuba in many sectors, not only in the health sector, which is the latest, let's say, the latest campaigns against Cuba. And if you go to any website in the Miami area, for example, on the United States area, you will find a lot of false accusations against Cuba. And sometimes when you go through the whole chatting or chat there, you never find any South African in that discussion. So maybe Focus can try to incorporate his view or their view on that discussion over the websites or over the social media, because right now we are fighting a big fight there, in a big battle there in social media. This is one thing that we should maybe work and discuss later on in a special occasion, for example, or in a special topics. We can bring the South African view to that discussions. And another thing that I would like to say that is that we are really grateful for the support and the petition that you submit for the Cuban for the Henry Reef Cuban Brigade give them the Nobel Prize. And this is also one of the initiatives that the whole movement of solidarity with Cuba all around the world have been put forward. There is not uh, a government, let's say, initiative, but it's a solidarity initiative all around the world. And it would be good if the South Africa movement of solidarity with Cuba will be engaged with an all solidarity movement all around the world in order to put forward or to strengthen this movement all around the world. It could be one of the options that you may have of a solidarity movement with Cuba. And on the other hand, I will just reiterate that Cuba will be always ready to support South Africa in any request that you may have to us. And on the economical level, also, it will be a possibility that maybe we can explore as a solidarity movement how we can be part of this movement that can raise, for example, the intention of the South African business community or the South African economic forums, for example, that can engage with Cuba in more depth commitment or in a more depth level of cooperation or communication with Cuban business community, and maybe this would be a role that the South Africa Solidarity Movement can play. For example, last week there was an international solidarity event, regional event, and it was hosted by Nigerian Congress there, and it will be someone from Focus South Africa participate in that meeting. But maybe we should try to build this net among all the solidarity organizations in the country that can really work together in order to be part of those kind of event that Africa continent have been putting forward in order to support Cuba. Those are my few ideas just came out of my mind right now without thinking before, that maybe if we can commit it ourselves in try to find out ways we can do it later on. Thank you so much for organizing this event and for allowing me to be part of this and to present the ideas the way that I did. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Comrade Rebecca. I think that's extremely helpful. I think, in a way, I think the way you brought forward the issue of social media as a frontier area for solidarity work, I think that's been extremely helpful. And of course, we will continue to popularize the idea of the Cuban Medical Brigade receiving the Nobel Peace Prize, that economic cooperation, I think in the future as well. I think our first webinar as Friends of Cuba in Cape Town, but it's not the last. And I think, for example, the issue of the worldwide fight against racism, and we want to hear more about the experience of Cuba, as Fatima said, not one off, we're going to fight racism, but a continuing fight against that. I think also the point that you made that we need to put the recording up on our social media. I think people would want to hear the whole message, even the 3 minutes we missed out on from Comrade Gerardo. And we'll, of course, be expressing to Comrade Gerardo our thanks for coming to be with us. So we want to thank everybody. I hope everybody has been inspired, encouraged to continue to do solidarity work. We want to also continue to say thank you to Cuba for being with us during COVID-19. We need to encourage every one of us to keep safe, keep sanitizing, keep social distance, keep washing your hands, and together we will fight COVID-19, and together we'll make a better world. And thank you, Comrade Fatima, who's played a key role, and other comrades, also Carl and others who have helped, and other comrades of the Friends of Cuba who've helped put this webinar together. So viva Cuba, viva. Viva internationalism, viva. Viva July the 26th. Forward to a better world. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias. A luta continua.
Gracias.